A stranger wrote 7 words on my coffee cup that morning. And those 7 words are the only reason I'm still alive. I was standing in a hospital waiting room, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the small paper cup of water a nurse had given me. 2 police officers were across the room interviewing the barista who had saved my life, a young girl with purple hair who kept wiping tears from her cheeks as she spoke. Through the window behind them, I could see paramedics wheeling a man out on a stretcher, his wrists handcuffed to the rails, even though he was barely conscious. I watched them load him into an ambulance and I felt nothing. No relief, no anger, just a cold, hollow emptiness that I didn't know how to fill. That was the day I walked into my regular coffee shop on a normal Tuesday morning and walked out running for my life. A man had followed me inside, a man I had never spoken to, but who had been watching me for weeks. He had a plan for me that day. He had tools in his pocket and photographs of me in his car. And the only thing that stopped him was a teenage barista who noticed something I completely missed and decided to risk everything to warn a stranger. I need to take you back to before that morning so you can understand how invisible the danger really was. My name is Tessa, and I was living the kind of quiet, predictable life that made me feel safe. I worked as an elementary school art teacher in Portland, Oregon, spending my days helping second graders learn how to mix paint colors and express themselves through drawings and collages. I loved my job more than I ever expected to. There's something pure about watching a child discover that blue and yellow make green, something that reminded me why I chose this career in the first place. I lived alone in a small rental house in a quiet neighborhood near the school. The house was old but charming with hardwood floors that creaked and a backyard just big enough for the small vegetable garden I never quite managed to keep alive. My neighbors were mostly young families and retired couples, the kind of people who waved when you walked by and kept an eye on each other's packages. It felt safe. It felt like the kind of place where nothing bad could happen. My younger brother Gavin lived across town. He worked as a physical therapist at a sports medicine clinic. We weren't the type of siblings who talked every day, but we were close in the way that mattered. We had dinner together at our parents' house regularly, a tradition that had started when I moved back to Portland and never stopped. Our mother, Lorraine, was a retired nurse who spent her days gardening and worrying about both of us living in the city. She called me to remind me to lock my doors and check my smoke detectors. Our father, Dean, was quieter, the kind of man who showed love through action rather than words. He was always showing up at my house unannounced to fix a leaky faucet or replace a light bulb I hadn't even noticed was out. My mornings always started the same way. I woke up, showered, got dressed, and walked 3 blocks to a coffee shop called Mosaic Brew. It was a small place with exposed brick walls and local artwork hanging for sale. The tables were mismatched, the chairs were old, and the whole place smelled like fresh espresso and baked goods. I had been going there every weekday morning, always arriving at the same time, always ordering the same thing, a medium vanilla latte with oat milk. The staff knew me by name. The owner, a woman named Pet, would wave at me from the back when she saw me come in. The morning barista was a college student named Sierra, a girl with short purple hair and a small nose ring who always drew little smiley faces or hearts on my cup. She was studying psychology at Portland State and worked the early shift to pay for her textbooks. We weren't friends exactly, but we had the kind of easy familiarity that comes from seeing someone at the same time every single day. She knew my order before I said it. I knew she had a cat named Machi and a boyfriend who played in a band. My life felt ordinary in the best possible way. I had a job that fulfilled me, a family I was close to, and a routine that brought me comfort. I never walked through the world feeling afraid. I never looked over my shoulder or wondered if someone was watching me. I thought I was aware of my surroundings. I thought I was careful. Looking back now, I realized there were signs I should have noticed. A dark blue sedan that seemed to be parked on my street more often than made sense, sometimes in front of my house and sometimes a few doors down. A prickling feeling on the back of my neck when I walked to my mailbox in the evenings. A man I vaguely remembered seeing at the grocery store one week, then at the gas station the next, then at the park where I sometimes walked on Saturday mornings. He never spoke to me. He never came close enough to seem threatening. He was just there, existing in the background of my life in a way that felt like coincidence. I told myself it was nothing.
Portland isn't that big of a city.
You run into the same people sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. I pushed away that uncomfortable feeling and went on with my safe, predictable life, never knowing that someone was studying me the way I studied a painting, learning my patterns, memorizing my schedule, waiting for the perfect moment. And that moment was about to arrive. The Tuesday morning that changed everything started exactly like every other morning. I woke up, took a shower, and put on my usual work outfit, a soft green cardigan over a white blouse and dark jeans. I grabbed my bag, locked my front door, and started the walk to Mosaic Brew. The air was cool and damp the way Portland mornings always are in early spring. A light fog hung over the neighborhood, softening the edges of everything. I remember thinking it was peaceful. I remember feeling content. I pushed through the door of the coffee shop at the same time I arrived every single day. The familiar smell of espresso and fresh pastries wrapped around me like a warm blanket. I loved that smell. It meant routine. It meant safety. It meant the start of another ordinary day. The shop was quiet that morning. An older woman sat near the window reading a thick paperback novel. A half-eaten muffin on a plate beside her. A young man with noise-canceling headphones was hunched over a laptop at one of the corner tables, his fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. And near the door, at a small table I usually walked right past, sat a man I didn't recognize. I didn't pay much attention to him at first. He was looking at his phone, scrolling through something with one hand while his other hand rested on the table. White, medium build, wearing a dark green jacket. He looked completely ordinary, the kind of person you wouldn't remember after seeing them. I got in line behind a woman ordering a complicated drink. While I waited, I glanced toward the counter and smiled at Sierra. She was already looking at me and she smiled back, but something about it felt off. The smile was there on her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her face looked tight, almost strained, and her gaze kept flickering toward the man near the door. I assumed she was just tired. The woman in front of me finally finished ordering and stepped aside. I moved up to the counter. "Hey, Tessa." The usual. Sierra's voice was bright, but there was something underneath it, a slight tremor I had never heard before. Her hands were busy preparing to make my drink, but they seemed to be moving faster than normal, almost rushed. "Yes, please. Medium vanilla latte, oat milk." She turned away to the espresso machine, and I stepped to the side to wait. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my email, deleting a few spam messages. Normal things, mindless things. I wasn't paying attention to anything around me. Sierra finished my drink in record time. Usually, she took her time making small talk. Today, she worked in silence, her back to me, her shoulders tense. When she turned around and handed me the cup, she held my gaze for a moment longer than usual. Her eyes were wide, and I could see something in them that I couldn't name. Fear, urgency, a desperate plea. Her hand was trembling slightly when she released the cup into my grip. I looked down automatically, expecting to see her usual smiley face or a little heart drawn in black marker. Instead, there were words. 7 words written in small, hurried letters along the side of the cup. "Don't drink this. Act normal and leave." My brain couldn't process what I was reading. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. I almost laughed. Then I looked up and saw her face. She wasn't laughing. Her jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles in her neck straining. She gave me the tiniest shake of her head, so small that anyone else would have missed it. Then she mouthed a single word, her lips barely moving. "Now." Something cold spread through my chest. I didn't understand what was happening, but every instinct in my body suddenly screamed that I needed to listen. I needed to move. I needed to get out of this coffee shop right now. I turned toward the door, forcing my legs to move at a normal pace, casual, relaxed, like nothing was wrong. The man near the entrance was still looking at his phone. But as I started walking, his eyes flicked up toward me, just long enough for me to see that he wasn't really looking at his phone at all. He was watching me. He had been watching me the entire time. I pushed through the door and stepped onto the sidewalk. The cool morning air hit my face. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every part of me wanted to run, but I forced myself to take a few normal steps first. Then I heard the door open behind me. Heavy footsteps on the concrete, moving fast. I dropped my coffee and ran. I ran faster than I knew I was capable of running. My bag slammed against my hip with every step. I didn't look back. I just ran. The footsteps behind me were heavy and fast. I could hear them gaining ground, getting closer with every second. My house was a few blocks away, but I would never make it. Even if I did, my keys were buried in my bag. By the time I found them and unlocked the door, he would be on me. I needed help. I needed people. I needed somewhere safe right now. Then I remembered the fire station. It was on the corner of Maple and 3rd. I cut hard to the left, nearly losing my footing as I changed direction. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The footsteps behind me faltered for just a moment, thrown off by my sudden turn, and I used that moment to push harder. The fire station was right there. I slammed into the side door with my full weight, and it flew open. I stumbled into a garage bay where 2 firefighters were standing near a big red truck. They looked up in shock as I burst through the door, gasping for air, tears already streaming down my face. "Someone's chasing me." The words came out broken, barely louder than a whisper. "Please help me." One of them moved immediately. She strode toward the door I had just come through and stepped outside. The other firefighter guided me behind the fire truck and told me to stay low. "You're safe now. Just stay right here. We've got you." I crouched behind the massive wheel of the truck, my back pressed against the cold metal, my whole body trembling so violently I could barely breathe. Then I heard voices outside. The female firefighter, her tone polite but firm. "Can I help you with something?" A man's voice answered, calm and friendly. "Yeah, sorry to bother you. I'm looking for my girlfriend. We had a fight this morning and she ran off. I just want to make sure she's okay. Have you seen a woman come through here? Green sweater, blonde hair." My stomach turned to ice. He was describing me, pretending to be my boyfriend. The firefighter's voice didn't waver. "There's no one here matching that description. You should move along." A pause longer than it should have been. The silence stretched until I thought I might scream, then footsteps walking away, slow at first, then fading into the distance. The younger firefighter looked down at me with kind eyes. "Stay here. We're calling the police right now." 2 patrol cars pulled into the fire station lot. Officers climbed out and spoke briefly with the firefighters before one of them approached me. She introduced herself as Officer Ruiz and asked if I could describe the man. I did my best. White male, medium build, brown hair, dark green jacket. Officer Ruiz wrote everything down. Another officer offered to drive me back to Mosaic Brew to speak with the barista. When we pulled up outside the shop, the morning rush had been cleared out and a closed sign hung in the window. Inside, Sierra was sitting in a chair, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea, her face pale. When she saw me, she stood up fast. "Oh my God, are you okay?
Did he hurt you?"
She crossed the space between us and threw her arms around me. She was shaking almost as badly as I was. She whispered against my shoulder. I was so scared. I thought if I said something out loud, he would hear me. I thought he might hurt both of us. The police separated us to take our statements. Sierra told them the man had come into the shop right after me. He ordered a black coffee, paid in cash, and sat down at the table nearest the door, but he never touched his drink. He just sat there staring at me the entire time I was in line. Sierra said something about him felt wrong from the moment he walked in. Then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. While I was looking at my phone, the man reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out. He held it low in his lap, but Sierra was watching him. She saw exactly what he was holding. A syringe, small, filled with clear liquid, the needle already uncapped. She didn't know what was in it, but she knew it wasn't anything good. Her first instinct was to call out, to warn me directly, but she was terrified that if she did, he might panic and attack. She did the only thing she could think of in that moment. She grabbed a marker and wrote on my cup, praying that I would read it. The police found him later. He was sitting in his car, a dark blue sedan parked on a side street near my house. When they searched the vehicle, they found the syringe filled with a powerful sedative. They found zip ties and duct tape in the glove compartment. They found a hunting knife under the passenger seat. And in the back seat, they found a folder. Inside were photographs of me, dozens of them. Me walking to my car, pushing a cart through the grocery store, standing at my classroom window. He had been watching me for weeks. He knew my schedule better than I did. His name was Gregory Linden. He worked as an IT technician downtown and had no prior criminal record. There was no connection between us. He told police he first noticed me at a different coffee shop months earlier. Something about me caught his attention, and from that moment on, he couldn't let go. He learned my schedule by watching me, noting the times I left for work and the routes I took. He had been planning his move for a long time. The syringe contained a sedative strong enough to knock me unconscious within seconds. His plan was to inject me outside the coffee shop and carry me to his car like a boyfriend helping his tired girlfriend. Gregory Linden was charged with stalking, attempted kidnapping, and possession of a controlled substance with intent to cause harm. His trial lasted several days. I testified, sitting in a witness box near the man who had hunted me. I didn't look at him. He was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The judge called his behavior calculated and predatory. I couldn't go back to my rental house after that. I moved into a secure building downtown with a doorman and cameras in every hallway. I still teach art to second graders. I still love watching their faces light up when they discover something new. But I drive to work now instead of walking. I vary my schedule so I'm never too predictable. Sierra and I became real friends. I visit her at the new shop where she works. She always makes my vanilla latte without milk and draws a little heart on the cup. I asked her once why she did it, why she risked herself for a customer she barely knew. She thought about it for a moment, then shrugged. Something felt wrong. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. What if everyone always looked away? What if nobody ever helped? That question changed something in me. I noticed things I never noticed before. I don't look away anymore. I can't because I know what it feels like to be watched by someone who means you harm. And I know what it feels like to be saved by someone who simply chose to pay attention. 7 words on a coffee cup saved my life. Now I try to be the kind of person who writes those words for someone else.